Good day, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm. Just wanted to show you, this is that honey locust savanna that we started on here beginning of the week, and we've got I guess 2 days. Yeah, well, I worked on it about 2 hours this morning, just kind of finishing up the stacking. The boys and I came in with 3 chainsaws, and Isaac and Ike did the majority of the cut, and I cut a few of them, but I was on this thing most of the time. That is a tool. It saves. You can see the massive size of these brush piles. I mean, Isaac and them started cutting the trees in chunks. When they'd cut them down, I finally said, just leave them whole. You know, these trees are 60 feet long, some of them. That's the trunk, and the end of it's clear over on the other side of that pile. And of course, they're just covered in thorns. I've got to watch where I'm walking. You always want to make sure you wear leather shoes, and that'll help most of the time. And watch how you walk. Watch where you're walking. I mean, this thing's wide. This is our smallest. Yeah, probably the second smallest. I've got one over there in the middle of this field that's twice this big. I tried to pack it tight. We're gonna let it set for probably 45 to 60 days, and then we'll come in here and get a fire going, catch the wind to where it's blowing either from the north or the south, north preferably, and light it on this side and let the wind push the flame through that. It's going to be a hot fire. But we've got this one, we got one, there's another one over there, 2, and there's one at the far end, 3, and there's one in the far corner, there's 4. I would call this the second biggest one. But, you know, we did the amount of work in 2.5 days with that skid steer that would have taken, shoot, you'd have worked in here all summer. And we're not done yet. We're gonna come back with the chainsaw and a stick. We can reach 16 feet. And we're gonna trim these limbs up on these trees just to make it a little more manageable for the cows to get under them for shade. And of all the trees in here, folks, I know this is hard to believe. There's one persimmon there. It's a little persimmon beside it. And I'm trying to think. Oh, here's one. This is the only oak. He's a little bitty guy, but I left him, and that's actually a young black oak. Then everything else is honey locust. There's not anything else in here but honey locust. That tree there is probably 80 feet tall. That one's, well, folks, I'm telling you, I can remember when we leased, see, this piece that I'm on originally was part of Doc's farm. And the developers that bought it, they had this thing split up into I don't know how many paddocks or how many different lots. But thank goodness for Doc. He came in and bought, there's 240 acres over there, and they had it split into, I forgot now, it was 6 or 8 different allotments, because nobody could, you know, at that time could afford to buy the whole thing. And Doc came in and bought the whole thing and just kept it all together. Well, this is a track here that did get split off, and it goes across Percy Creek over here, and so it's landlocked. But the reason they came over and got this was it gave them, I think this particular tract has 10 acres. And in Boone County, to build a house on it, you've got to have 10 acres. So that's why they came across the creek, and they got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 tracks along here, 10-acre tracks. And there's 4 of them now that have houses on them, across the creek, of course. But yeah, so we came into agreement with the landowner. He said, you know, I can't use it, and all it is thorn trees. See what you can do with it. And so we brought the cattle in here. I brought the brush hog in first, brush hog what I could of it, and then we brought the cattle in and left them in here for 4 hours. And to get it grazable, all we had to do was run one wire. And that's because we had the other 3 sides already fenced with Doc's property. When I say fenced, I'm talking high tensile electric. So this is our fence. This is our brand new one the boys just put up. There she is. Fiberglass post, that's what we had. You see it's already got a splice on it. That's where I hit it with the skid steer. And this is just a little subsidiary right here. The big creek's on the other side over here. I can remember several years ago this had beaver in it. I know it doesn't seem possible, but there was beaver in there. They had this thing all dammed up. I love beaver. I think they're a cool animal, especially in creeks and rivers. They don't go so well in landowners' lakes. Landowners get a little bit upset, and I can understand why. They dam up the spillway, and when they dam up the spillway, because they hate the sound of running water, the spillway does this. It goes up, 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 and then the water is clear up on the very top of your dam. And if you get a big rain, there's a danger of losing your dam. Yep, there you can see the water over there. It's got a pretty good flow to it today. I bet you could float that in a boat. This is the same creek that runs through several of our properties, and it ends up in the Missouri River. And of course, the Missouri joins up with the Mississippi River down at the St. Louis Arch. So this water you're looking at right there will end up in the arch, and eventually down the Mississippi Delta into the ocean. Yep. It's beautiful back here. Big rock bluff over there. This used to be my stomping grounds. Oh gosh, in the 80s? Golly, that's 44 years ago. 1980. I was riding my mule down through here. This is all my old coon hunting grounds. So I used to coon hunt on a jumping mule. I had dogs, and we hunted raccoons. And there was it was really a great sport. A lot of people did it, but it was also very economical back in the day because there was a good market for coons. And they are not that way anymore. The fur market's just been destroyed. But back in the day, it was a good way for a country boy to go out at night, have a great time with your dogs and your jumping mule, and make some bills. But I'm just glad I got to live through those days because they're gone. Well, look at the size of this walnut. Holy moly. This is a huge walnut tree. Whew. I wonder how old that thing is. That's got to be 8 foot around. Here's a riffle. There's a lot of water going down through That'd be a little bit dicey putting a boat in there. you'd be scraping the bottom of your hull right there. You see where the boys just got this, they just got this fence put in. Grab that off of there. There's one more on it. There we go. They did a wonderful job. Look at that. So this yellow, this red flag down here is the corner of Doc's farm. And we already had a great big fiberglass corner driven here. As you can see, that's a 2.5 inch solid fiberglass rod. There's the property marker. Yep. It's amazing how that stuff stays on there that long. Folks, that was put on there. And Doc bought this in 2001. That's the year we leased it. People look at that and they go, Greg, how do you keep that fence tight? I mean, look at that. When I say tight, I meant hot. How do you keep that fence hot? You don't turn it off. I promise you, you don't want to touch that wire. We put a voltmeter on it yesterday. It's 4,800, and that was after a rain. It's a big one. It's a Stayfix 36 joule. So yeah, we've got it all cleared. You can see there's a brush pile there. And the big one, you'll actually be able to see if there's a deer comes into this honey locust savanna in the fall, he can now see them. Or before you couldn't. I mean, I don't have to show you. I don't have to explain to you. You can see. Look at the brush that came out of here. It's crazy. Do we have stumps? You darn tootin' we got stumps. But we cut them off probably 2 inches, 3 inches at the most. There's one. If we brush hog in here, here's the chunk that didn't get picked up by the skid steer. I can pick that up with one hand or not. Yep. Oh, that feels like a boat anchor. Green honey locust is heavy, heavy, heavy. Get it over here toward the fire. That's a heavy piece of wood. Look at that gnarly stuff. I mean, this is a big, big, big pile. But we tried to leave the spacing wide enough that the sun could get down to the ground. And most of this, there were so many trees in here that the sunlight couldn't get down to the ground very well. So now we're going to grow better grass, and the trees are going to grow faster because there's less there's less competition. Look at that pile. It's a serious pile. So what we did here in basically 2.5 days, it was all speeded up by that skid steer and having 3 sharp chainsaws, 2 young men, myself. And the last day Jan got in on it. She was our painter. She was painting the stumps. But yeah, I'm anxious to see what this looks like in about 60, 70 days. I'm not sure we'll get those burned by then, but we can bring the cows in here. And we will do some pickup. We're gonna come in here and stuff like this. As you can see, it's got some pretty good thorns on it. And we'll probably just, pile them, put them in piles. Then I can just run around with that skid steer and the grapples and just pick up our piles and put them on the brush pile. But yeah, it's basically a piece of ground that wasn't doing anything but growing thorn trees, and now we're going to be growing grass. And we get our stocking density right in here. We can bring on the clover. I'm sure I know there's clover in this seed bank. It just wasn't being grazed right. But the cows are going to be happy in here. There's quite a bit of shade and compliments of the trees. And now there's going to be a whole lot more grass. I'm going to show you this field right over here. The cows are coming this way. Isaac and Ike reversed the cow herd and took them a different direction because of all the rain we've had. You can see it's wet. And I'm not complaining. I am not going to complain. Not after having 2.5 years of drought. There's people out there that are hurting for water. And I feel for them. I've been there. Look at that. So those are baby honey locusts. There's probably 25 in there. And Doc has let me keep some. And so we'll go in there and we'll trim the limbs off of those. One thing I learned is you don't trim the limbs on a honey locust when they're small. Because the deer, the bucks come in with their racks in the fall. And they rub on them and they kill them. So leave the limbs on them until they're, 3 to 4 inches in diameter. And then you can cut the limbs off. It just makes it easier for the cows to get around them. Makes it easier to keep the place looking nicer. The landowners, want you to mow it. You got big limbs hanging out, they're gonna hook on your tractor and such. Makes it a little tough. But I'm telling you what now, those were just sprouts. Those trees right there you're looking at, those were sprouts about 7 years ago. And when I brush hogged it, I left them. I went around them, I told Doc what I was doing. He didn't have a problem with it as long as I didn't let the farm be taken over. Kind of like this was. Folks, this was just taken over. It wasn't any good for nothing. I mean, I guess if you wanted a lot of thorn trees, this would be nirvana. But there's not much money to be made or energy. You can't grow anything when the whole thing's just covered in solid thorn trees. So anyway, I'm going to get out of here. Everyone have a good one and be safe out there, and we'll see y'all down the road.